All right, today we are unpacking a story that is it's a strategic masterclass. It's part brilliant business move and, honestly, part high-tech heist. It's all about how one company figured out a way to get an entire universe of apps built for them without paying a dime. So, let me just ask you this. Imagine you've built something truly revolutionary, a whole new kind of technology, like a new smartphone, right? You need an app store, but you don't have the millions and millions of dollars to pay developers. So, what do? How do you get an army of smart people to build all those apps for you for free?
That is the big puzzle. And it turns out one massive industrial company has figured out a way to, well, essentially hijack a well-known startup competition to solve this very problem. It's an incredibly bold, brilliant, and, yeah, a little bit audacious of a plan.
So let's break down the blueprint. We're calling it the perfect heist, and for good reason. It's a meticulously planned operation, and it's designed to get something unbelievably valuable for next to nothing.
The strategy itself is surprisingly simple when you lay it out. First, the company goes out and finds founders. It trains them, helps them polish pitches for ideas that only work on their specific tech. Then, they funnel all these founders into a competition where the grand prize is a professional team building your app for free. And here's the catch. The winning app, by its very design, just becomes another brick in that company's ecosystem.
Now, to really understand how this whole thing works, we need to meet the two key players at the center of this story. They have this symbiotic relationship where each one gets something huge from the other. Okay, so on one side, you have DeReticular. They're the mastermind here. This is a heavy-duty industrial company, and they're building these incredible self-powered off-grid units called sovereign nodes. But they have a problem. They desperately need software for them. And on the other side, you've got CodeLaunch. They're the stage. It's this high-energy, super exciting startup competition that offers an unbelievable prize. They'll build the winner's app for free. And, get this, they take zero equity. So DeReticular has the need, and CodeLaunch has the perfect offer. The magic tech at the heart of all this is something called RIOS. The best way to think about it is like an operating system for a completely self-sufficient outpost. It's like a super rugged iPhone for the wilderness. It manages its own power, its own drone logistics, and all its computing. No internet or cloud required. This is the platform that DeReticular so desperately needs apps for. All right, now let's get into the real mechanics of the hack itself. Here's exactly how DeReticular goes about methodically flooding the CodeLaunch system to get exactly what they want. The whole process is really a 5-step masterstroke. First, DeReticular basically acts like a venture studio. They find founders and help them perfect these killer pitches for apps that have to run on RIOS. Then, they just funnel these founders into CodeLaunch. And of course, these really serious, high-impact infrastructure projects just naturally stand out from the usual, Tinder for dog walkers kind of ideas. So a RIOS native founder is super likely to win, and boom, CodeLaunch's partners end up building a core application for DeReticular's ecosystem 100% free of charge. I mean, this quote from the source material just says it all perfectly. DeReticular is essentially outsourcing its R&D costs to the CodeLaunch accelerator. Instead of having some multi-million-dollar R&D budget, they're just using this competition as their own personal, subsidized development arm. It's genius.
But a move this big, it doesn't just benefit one company. It creates these massive ripple effects that touch everyone involved. It completely transforms the competition itself.
So on the surface, this really looks like a perfect win-win-win scenario. DeReticular gets their app, the founder gets their product built, and CodeLaunch gets a much higher quality of competition. But there's a catch. Of course there is. Just look at the difference for CodeLaunch. It is night and day. Before this flood, their applicants were mostly building, simple consumer web apps. After, they're getting these incredibly serious deep tech projects, startups working on fundamental science and engineering challenges. Their development partners are going from building basic websites to complex AI and IoT systems. And maybe most importantly, the risk for investors just plummets because these startups show up with a guaranteed first customer already in their back pocket.
DeReticular.
And you can imagine this has a huge impact on CodeLaunch's brand, what they call venturetainment. The whole show just gets way more exciting. I mean, the old pitch might be, we built a dashboard for accountants, which is fine.
But the new pitch is, we are using autonomous drones in Uganda to deliver life-saving blood supplies without the internet. It literally transforms the show from like Silicon Valley SaaS to something out of an Iron Man movie.
And for investors, this is the absolute crucial point. The number one risk for any new startup is, can you find that first customer? Well, DeReticular's strategy just completely vaporizes that risk. Founders can now get on stage and say, hey, if we win this thing, DeReticular has guaranteed they will deploy our product on their node in Uganda next month. That is an absolute game changer for getting investment.
But, this seemingly perfect partnership, it has a dark side. This powerful alliance comes with some pretty significant long-term risks, and they're especially big for CodeLaunch.
And that leads us to the central, kind of scary question for the future of this whole thing. What happens when the hack works a little too well? What happens when DeReticular's projects don't just participate in the competition, they start to completely dominate it? So here's the big risk. Imagine a future where DeReticular's founders start taking up, say, 70% of all the finalist spots. At that point, CodeLaunch stops looking like an independent accelerator for everyone, right? It risks becoming what's called a single-tenant accelerator, which is just a fancy way of saying it's basically become the outsourced R&D department for one single company. It could lose its entire identity.
So, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, for founders, it's a cheat code to get a really complex, expensive product built for free. For DeReticular, it's a genius R&D model. For CodeLaunch, it's a huge risk of dependency, for sure, but it also opens up a whole new business model. What if they could sell this flood service to other giant corporations? And for the entire startup industry, this might just be a brand new blueprint for how big companies can build out their innovation ecosystems.
And that leaves us with this final, really big thought. This whole strategic dance between a huge corporation and a startup competition, it's more than just a clever business hack. It might actually be the blueprint for how we build the critical infrastructure for a new, decentralized, post-grid world. Not in some sterile lab, but live on stage for everyone to see.